Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. There comes a point in your life when silence becomes louder than applause, when fake laughter tastes bitter on your tongue, and when you finally realize you've been feeding everybody else while you're starving in the middle of your own table. Let me ask you something raw. Who's pouring into you? No, I don't mean who's calling you. I don't mean who's tagging you in group chats or showing up at your birthday just to take pictures. I mean, who's pouring into you? Who's lifting you when your soul forgets how to rise? Who's checking on you when you've stopped checking in with yourself? Who's covering you in prayer when the world starts peeling at your skin? Because I'll tell you what's killing too many kings and queens out here. We're trying to carry everyone else's cross while bleeding from our own crucifixion. We give, we uplift, we serve. We build people's dreams like architects of heaven. But when the storms come crashing in on our walls, who's holding the beams up for us? You see, not everybody around you is your tribe. Some of them are tourists. They only came to take pictures of your progress. They smile in your light, but secretly pray you dim it because your growth reminds them of their stagnancy. Stop mistaking people's presence for partnership. Stop mistaking proximity for purpose. Just because they're next to you doesn't mean they're for you. Let's make something clear today. You were not created to be a bottomless cup for broken people to sip from while they leave you empty. You deserve to be poured into. You deserve a circle, not a cage. People who speak life into your visions, not sarcasm. People who fuel your fire, not dance around it and wait for it to die. You see, we've been raised in a culture that idolizes self-sacrifice without boundaries. We call it love. We call it loyalty, but sometimes it's self-abandonment in disguise. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to stop answering calls that only come when somebody needs something. You're allowed to protect your peace like it's the last breath of air you've got left. Because what good is your brilliance if you burn out before your time? Let me say this clearly, not everyone who claps for you is for you, and not everyone who's quiet is against you. Learn the difference. Maturity is learning how to discern the weight people carry and the weight they put on you. It's not selfish to audit your circle. It's wise. Look around you. Who challenges you to grow? Who believes in you when you can't believe in yourself? Who reminds you that your scars are proof of survival, not shame? Surround yourself with people who don't just want your wins, but are willing to sit with you through your wounds. You see, life isn't about how many people are in the room. It's about the energy they bring. I'd rather have 4 lions than 40 sheep. I'd rather walk alone in purpose than together in confusion. And let me tell you something else. You don't owe anyone access to you just because you shared a history with them. Time doesn't mean alignment. Loyalty without reciprocity is slavery. Yes, I said it. It's time to release the friendships where you're always the one fixing things. The relationships where your love becomes an unpaid therapist session. The jobs that drain your soul for a paycheck that insults your potential. You deserve to be poured into. And no, that doesn't mean you stop giving. It means you give from overflow, not depletion. You're not a reservoir, you're a river. Water must flow through you, not die in you. This life, this one life, is too short to keep planting seeds in gardens that don't want to grow. And hear me, if they can't celebrate your healing, your elevation, your calling, then they're not assigned to your future. Don't fight to stay in rooms God is trying to pull you out of. You are not everyone's aunt. Stop setting yourself on fire to keep people warm who wouldn't light a candle for you. There's a difference between people who love your light and people who just want to stand in it. There's a difference between those who walk with you and those who wait to replace you. You know why some of you are tired all the time? It's not your job. It's not your family. It's your environment. Your soul is suffocating from the pressure of pretending to be okay, pretending that you don't feel used, pretending that you don't see the betrayal in their eyes. Stop ignoring the signs. Your destiny is too divine to be diluted. You weren't born to be a background character in someone else's story. You are not hard to love. You are not asking for too much. You're just asking the wrong people. You know what happens when you surround yourself with people who pour into you. You become unstoppable. Your confidence returns. Your creativity wakes up. Your vision sharpens. Your spirit breathes again. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, pray differently, because finally your roots are being watered, not withered. It's not weakness to say I need, it's strength to say I deserve. Deserve people who will hold your name in rooms you're not in. Deserve people who celebrate your boundaries, not guilt trip you for them. Deserve those who see your worth before you win, not just when the spotlight hits. Let's get real. We've all had seasons where we clung to people out of loneliness, not alignment, where we let trauma build our tribe. But healing demands higher. You need people who see your soul, not just your smile. People who tell you the truth even when it stings, because they care about your becoming, not your comfort. People who speak vision into your bones like prophecy, because when you surround yourself with those kinds of people, iron sharpens iron. Your dreams don't die in that circle. Your identity doesn't get lost in that room. You don't have to shrink to fit in. So let this be your reminder. You don't rise by yourself, you rise with your tribe. Your future is too big for small-minded company. If you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. If you're the strongest one in your circle, it's not a circle, it's a leash. Your gifts were meant to soar, not suffocate. It's time to elevate your circle. Find people who challenge your thinking, expand your faith, and stretch your vision. People who sharpen your discipline, not your doubt. People who feed your focus, not your fear. You are worthy of community that builds, not bleeds. Connection that grows, not grinds. And if you don't have that yet, don't panic. Build it. Become the kind of person who pours into others, so that when you finally meet your tribe, you recognize them by their spirit, not their smile. Because energy doesn't lie. You'll feel the shift, you'll feel the peak, and you'll wonder how you ever settled for less. Let me leave you with this. The most dangerous thing you can do in life is not fail. It's succeed in the wrong circle. Because that kind of success will leave you empty, hollow, and unseen. Choose elevation, choose purpose, choose alignment over attachment. Surround yourself with people who pour into you and watch how your entire world transforms. Because you were never meant to walk this road carrying dead weight disguised as company. You were meant to rise. So rise with those who see you, not just when you're winning, but when you're weary. Rise with those who pour into your spirit like it's holy, because it is. And let me tell you, when you finally walk away from the noise, from the empty echoes of shallow connections, from the rooms where you were only ever valued for what you do instead of who you are, you'll notice something strange. Peace, not the kind that tiptoes, but the kind that plants its flag and declares territory in your chest. The kind of peace that doesn't need permission to exist. Because when you stop begging to be understood in places where your soul isn't safe, you begin to understand yourself. And that self-understanding, that's the birthplace of power. It's where clarity becomes non-negotiable, where compromise stops looking like kindness and starts looking like self-betrayal, where your own reflection starts looking more like a friend and less like a stranger. This is what happens when you're no longer distracted by people who only clap when they're center stage. You start hearing the sound of your own growth. And growth, it's not loud. It doesn't perform. It doesn't announce itself. Growth is quiet. It shows up in your choices. It's the text you don't send, the boundary you enforce, the energy you no longer chase, the peace you prioritize without apology. Some people won't recognize the new you, not because you've changed too much, but because they never really saw you to begin with. They were looking at your function, not your fire, your utility, not your uniqueness. But you're not here to be used. You're here to be aligned. And alignment isn't about comfort. It's about conviction. It's about choosing what nourishes you, even when it's not familiar. Because the familiar will kill you if it keeps you stuck in patterns you were never meant to survive. You've got to break that cycle, not just for yourself, but for the version of you that almost didn't make it. The one who stayed silent to keep the peace. The one who laughed to avoid crying. The one who kept giving chances, hoping they turn into change. That version of you fought like hell. You owe them a future filled with reciprocity, because giving your heart to the wrong hands is the fastest way to forget how powerful your love actually is. But when the right people enter your life, they don't demand your essence. They honor it. They don't compete with your light. They reflect it. They don't just listen to your dreams. They water them, even when the soil looks dry. Those are the people who turn ordinary days into holy ground. Conversations with them don't just pass time, they heal it. So don't be afraid to be intentional with your relationships. There is nothing arrogant about protecting your peace. There is nothing selfish about demanding energy that matches your value. You've tried being everything for everyone. Now it's time to be everything for yourself and invite others who know how to treat everything with the reverence it deserves. Because you are not for casual consumption. Your spirit is not a vending machine. You don't need to be easy to be worthy. Your worth was never based on how small you can make yourself to fit into other people's expectations. Your worth is woven into your wholeness, and wholeness attracts people who don't need you to be broken to feel valuable. In fact, real ones. They'll challenge you to rise even higher, not out of pressure, but out of partnership, because they see something in you that maybe you forgot the ability to rebuild, to reinvent, to resurrect. And when you're surrounded by people who pour into you, you don't just survive, you thrive. You begin to see yourself differently. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You stop explaining why your spirit feels heavy in places where your joy was never welcome. You stop trading your voice for belonging. You stop waiting for external permission to honor your internal truth. You become unapologetically whole. But hear this clearly, it will cost you. It will cost you people who were only loyal to your silence. It will cost you places that rewarded your people-pleasing. It will cost you identities you wore to feel accepted. But what you'll gain, freedom, vision, spiritual depth, emotional fluency, self-trust. And the moment you truly trust yourself, that's when everything changes. You stop panicking in the presence of chaos. You stop questioning your intuition every time someone gaslights your truth. You stop shrinking to protect egos that were never meant to sit at your table. Instead, you build new tables. You build rooms where people are celebrated, not tolerated. You build friendships where accountability doesn't feel like attack, it feels like love. You build homes, not just houses, legacies, not just likes. Because now your circle is different. It's not built on codependency. It's built on contribution. It's not built on secrets and survival. It's built on growth and grace. So if you're in a season of shedding, let it happen. If the phone gets quieter, if the texts get shorter, if the parties stop coming, rejoice. Because silence is not the absence of connection. It's the clearing required for divine alignment. And when you finally make space, the right people find you. Not because you chased them, but because you became someone worth meeting, someone who knows their worth, someone who won't sell peace for popularity, someone who would rather be alone in purpose than surrounded in pretense, someone who doesn't confuse availability with intimacy, because you've done the work, you've healed the wounds, you've raised your standards not out of spite but out of sacred responsibility. And now you're ready to walk into rooms you once prayed for, ready to be met with the same energy you've been giving for years, ready to be loved with the same fire you carry in your soul, ready to be poured into because finally you believe you deserve it. Let's go even deeper. There's a quiet transformation that happens the moment you stop chasing people. It's not loud. There's no applause, no ceremony, just you, standing still, finally realizing that not everyone deserves front row access to your becoming. See, we've been conditioned to think loyalty means never letting go, but true wisdom knows when to hold on and when to honor your evolution enough to walk away. The truth, some connections are seasonal. and dragging them into your next chapter doesn't elevate them, it delays you. You don't need a crowd, you need clarity. You don't need followers, you need faith-filled companions, the ones who stand in the dark with you, not just in your highlight reel, the ones who understand your silences, the ones who pray for your peace when you can't find the words. If they only show up when you shine, don't mistake them for your tribe. Light attracts everything, including moths, but only real ones stay when the lights go out. And you've got to ask yourself this: when my energy is low, when my soul is tired, when my spirit is cracked wide open, who shows up? Not with advice, not with demands, just presence. There's a sacred power in people who simply see you, not the title, not the hustle, the human beneath the achievements, the soul behind the smile. That kind of connection isn't loud, it's anchoring. It holds you steady when the world spins reckless. Because here's what's real: everybody wants access to your fire, but only a few are willing to add wood when it starts to burn low. So you've got to be intentional. You've got to guard your gates. Not because you're bitter, but because you finally learned that peace is expensive and you're done giving it away for free. Think about this. Every time you compromise your standards to keep the wrong person around, you delay the right ones from finding you. You were never meant to be entertainment for people who can't handle your depth. Let's talk about discernment, because it's not just about who to avoid, it's about who to invest in. Pouring into others isn't the problem. It's pouring into deserts and expecting rain in return. You have to start recognizing where your energy blooms and where it withers. And when you find someone who makes you feel seen, not just watched, nurture that bond, because connection is currency. The right relationships will fund your courage, your creativity, your calling. They'll remind you of who you are when life tries to convince you otherwise. They'll help you remember that your softness is not a weakness, that your dreams are not delusions, that your heart still beating is a miracle worth honoring. You don't have to be strong all the time. You don't have to be the one always holding it together. The right people will hold space for your mess. They'll honor your process. They won't rush your healing. And you know what else they'll do? They'll check you lovingly. They'll call you out when you shrink. They'll challenge your excuses. They'll pull you higher, not drag you into gossip and self-doubt. Because love doesn't just comfort. Love calls you forward. Let's talk about alignment. When you're aligned with the right people, collaboration replaces competition. Celebration replaces envy. Growth becomes communal. There's no power struggle, just mutual elevation. And this isn't about perfection, it's about purity of intention. People who don't pretend to be perfect, but are committed to becoming. You see, what's killing too many dreams isn't a lack of talent, it's toxic proximity. You cannot rise while dragging dead weight. You cannot build legacy in an environment of emotional poverty. You cannot stay hungry for purpose while being fed constant distraction. So step back, take inventory. Whose voices are shaping your inner world? Who are you becoming by association? Because exposure matters. If you spend enough time around mediocrity, excellence starts to feel arrogant. You've got to be bold enough to walk alone until you find people who speak your language, not your dialect, your destiny. People who don't just understand where you've been but can see where you're going and have the character to walk beside you. Because here's a secret no one tells you: real love, real connection. It's quiet, it's steady. It doesn't demand performance. It doesn't manipulate. It doesn't keep score. It holds you when you're empty. It reminds you of your light in moments of darkness. And if you've never experienced that before, don't lose hope. Just start by becoming that kind of person for yourself. Because before anyone else can pour into you, you've got to stop leaking from the holes your past left behind. You've got to believe you're worthy of love that doesn't come with a price tag, of relationships that don't leave you drained. You've got to forgive yourself for the times you settled you didn't know better. You thought love meant sacrifice. You thought presence meant care. You thought being chosen meant being safe. But now you know better. You've tasted the loneliness of proximity. without intimacy. You've survived the heartbreak of misplaced trust. You've carried the weight of being too much for people with small capacities. And now it's your turn to build new boundaries, to welcome people who bring clarity, not confusion, to receive support without guilt, because you were not made to pour endlessly from an empty soul. You were made to flow in rhythm with people who understand your worth. So let it be known from this day forward, you will no longer water people who prefer droughts. You will no longer invest in what depletes you. You will no longer wear masks to feel accepted. You will rise with those who rise with you. You will choose peace over performance, depth over drama, alignment over attachment. And you will become not just successful, but whole. Because being poured into isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. And you finally understand your life was always meant to overflow. Let's talk about what happens when you finally raise your standard for connection. You stop looking at people's intentions and start evaluating their impact. You begin to realize that good hearts can still cause harm, and that being kind doesn't excuse being careless. You learn that consistency is the foundation of trust. That presence isn't just about showing up, but how someone shows up, because words mean nothing without follow through. Promises are weightless when actions don't match. And so you become less impressed by kismet and more drawn to character, less enamored with charm and more invested in integrity. You start paying attention to the energy people bring into a room. Does it calm your spirit or spike your anxiety? Do they light up your courage or dim your confidence? That kind of awareness, it's earned. You don't stumble into it. You cultivate it through heartbreak, through betrayal, through awakening after years of spiritual malnourishment. And when you arrive at that awareness, it becomes impossible to go back to the shallow. You can't unsee it. You can't pretend that surface level friendship satisfies a soul built for depths, because you've tasted real collection and now you crave alignment more than attention. You start to crave conversations that nourish, not just entertain, moments that breathe life, not suck it out of you, relationships that feel like home, not like a performance. It's in those moments that you stop begging to be chosen and start choosing yourself. And in doing so, you make room for what's meant for you. Let's be clear, this is not about isolation, it's about elevation. It's not about building walls, it's about building filters, discernment that lets in light but keeps out what dims your shine. When you operate from wholeness, you stop attracting chaos disguised as connection. You stop needing to rescue people who aren't ready to be saved. You stop confusing pain with purpose. You stop thinking love has to hurt to be real, because healthy love, real friendship, empowering relationships, they build, they cover, they sustain, and they never force you to fracture your identity just to fit. You see, the right people don't just walk into your life, they mirror the healing you've done. They reflect the frequency you're vibrating on. If your circle hasn't changed in a while, ask yourself, has your frequency, because energy doesn't lie. You can say you want peace, but if you tolerate dysfunction, chaos will keep showing up in familiar faces. You can say you want depths, but if you entertain shallow connections, don't be surprised when your spirit starts gasping for air. The work is internal before it's external, which is why before you demand to be poured into, you must examine what kind of container you are. Are you a vessel built to receive and return, or a sieve that leaks every gift before it takes root? Are you asking for love but refusing to believe you're worthy of it? Because pouring into you isn't just about the people around you. It's about whether you have the courage to hold what they give, courage to hold joy without sabotaging it, courage to hold grace without questioning if you've earned it, courage to hold abundance without guilt. You have to prepare yourself for the people you've been praying for, because they're not coming to fix you, they're coming to join you. And if you haven't done the internal work, you'll either push them away or mistake their presence for a threat. So build capacity, expand your belief in what's possible, stretch your expectations beyond survival, beyond bare minimums, beyond struggle, love and one-sided friendships and trauma bonding disguised as loyalty. You are not here to constantly prove you're lovable. You are here to be loved fully and freely in the truth of who you are. That love, real love, is out there. but it flows toward wholeness. It flows toward honesty. It flows toward people who are ready. And when you become ready, you begin to draw in relationships that don't just admire you, but see you. Not the version you've curated, the real you. The one who has scars and laughter and contradictions. The one who cries in the car and still shows up to win. The one who carries history in her bones but still dreams with reckless hope. That version of you, she's enough. He's enough. They are enough. And the moment you believe it, everything changes. Your no becomes a full sentence. Your yes becomes intentional. Your time becomes sacred. Your energy becomes protected. You stop attending every emotional emergency you didn't cause. You stop trying to resuscitate relationships that flatlined years ago. You stop explaining your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. And in that sacred stillness, you become magnetic, not for the masses, but for the meaningful. You draw in kindred spirits, souls who've done their work, people who aren't intimidated by your strength or confused by your softness, people who don't shrink when you shine because they're lit from within too. That is the power of alignment. It multiplies what matters. It amplifies your mission. It fortifies your faith. And once you've tasted that kind of connection, you'll never settle for crumbs again. You'll never beg for the bare minimum. You'll never trade your peace for a seat at the wrong table, because you'll know that what you bring is valuable, that your presence is a privilege, that your time is a treasure. You'll stop asking, do they want me? And you'll start asking, do they deserve access to me? That shift, that's when everything accelerates. That's when opportunities feel different. That's when your glow is no longer dependent on anyone else's approval. That's when your inner world becomes so rich, so full, so deeply anchored that you only accept relationships that reflect that richness back. So let this be the season you stop pouring into potential and start investing in alignment. Let this be the chapter where you stop trying to be enough for everyone and start being fully you for the right one. Let this be the turning point where you realize you were never asking for too much. You were just asking in the wrong direction. Let's go further. You need to understand something vital. When you start protecting your energy, people will call you difficult. When you start prioritizing your peace, some will say you've changed, and they'll be right. You have changed. Growth demands it. But you didn't change to become arrogant. You changed to become aware of the cycles, aware of the exhaustion that comes from being everything to everyone, aware of the quiet agony of suppressing your needs to preserve a version of you others found convenient. And now, you're no longer available for that. You no longer carry conversations that go nowhere. You no longer chase clarity from people committed to confusion. You no longer perform emotional gymnastics just to be tolerated in someone's life. Because here's what you've learned the hard way. Access is a privilege, not a given. And love without respect is just manipulation in a prettier outfit. So you stop being available to energy that drains instead of drives, that burdens instead of builds. This isn't bitterness, it's boundaries. Boundaries that guard your joy, like security at a royal vault. Boundaries that protect your sacred spaces, your mornings, your mind, your mirror. You realize now that anything that costs your peace is too expensive. You no longer have to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. That version of you, the one who over-explained, over-apologized, overextended, no longer lives here. You held a funeral for the person who begged for crumbs and called it connection. Now you feast at a table of self-respect, and only those who come in peace, who come to build, who come to pour, get a seat. Let's talk about the loneliness of the transition. Because yes, there is a season where the phone is quiet, the invitations slow down. The people you once called at midnight stop reaching out. You begin to feel like maybe you were wrong to shift, wrong to retreat, wrong to draw that line in the sand. But then something shifts inside you. You realize that silence isn't rejection, it's realignment. It's the pause before the upgrade, the stillness that detoxes your space so better things can breathe. And in that silence, you hear something you hadn't heard in years. Your own voice, no longer drowned out by opinion, no longer buried beneath validation seeking. Your voice steady and clear, telling you what you need, what you deserve, and what you're no longer willing to tolerate. That voice becomes your compass, and you start navigating life with a new confidence, not the loud, boastful kind, but the rooted, quiet kind, the kind that doesn't flinch when tested, the kind that doesn't explain its worth, the kind that doesn't entertain doubt. This is where you begin to move differently, not with haste, but with authority, not with noise, but with conviction. You stop announcing your moves. You stop debating your worth. You stop explaining your standards to people who benefit from your confusion. And when you walk into rooms now, you bring something sacred with you. Certainty, not because you think you're better than anyone, but because you finally know what you bring. You bring depth, presence, integrity, vision. You bring light to spaces still stuck in shadows. And when you carry that kind of awareness, you no longer audition for roles in lives you were never meant to play. You don't chase, you choose. You don't beg, you bless. You don't compete, you collaborate. You don't strive to prove, you move in purpose. And yes, people will notice the difference. Some will draw closer, others will withdraw. That's okay. You're not for everyone. You never were. Your job is not to be universally liked. It's to be deeply aligned, because only in alignment do you find freedom. Freedom to say no without guilt. Freedom to rest without apology. Freedom to succeed without sabotage. And when you reach that level of freedom, you begin to overflow. That's the beauty of it all. You don't just pour into others, you overflow naturally. You inspire by existing. You lead by example. You elevate every room. Not because you're trying, but because you've done the inner work. And when someone pours into you, you don't resist it anymore. You don't question it. You receive it fully, because now you understand that you don't have to earn love by overperforming. You don't have to hustle for worthiness. You don't have to pretend to be low maintenance just to stay light. You can be high standard, high frequency, high peace, and still be loved well. So let this be the new standard. Choose people who choose you in both the quiet and the celebration. Keep those who don't flinch when your truth is messy. Lean into the ones who speak life even when you're silent. And celebrate those who see your soul without needing a filter. Because in a world that's constantly pulling you in 1,000 directions, the ones who pour into you are your anchors. They remind you who you are. They cover you when life strips you bare. They speak to the version of you that exists beyond trauma, beyond hustle, beyond math. They don't just pour, they protect. And in return, you protect them. You pour back. You hold them when it's their turn to break. Because that's what real connection does. It circulates love, not exhausts it. It's a flow, a rhythm, a divine exchange. So honor and if you're still waiting for those kinds of people, don't give up. Become the energy you want to attract. Operate at the level of the love you desire. Show up as the healed version, not the hidden one. Because when your vibration shifts, your tribe will find you. They'll recognize you, not by your status or your success, but by your spirit. They'll feel your frequency and know they're home. And in their presence, you won't have to earn anything. You'll just be loved, seen, known, poured in, because finally you stopped settling for what was draining you and stepped into the fullness of what was destined to fill you.